Hi, Coach. Doug Parrish, football organically. First of all, congrats on the bowl bound. Second of all, on the second quarter, there seemed to be a little bit of confusion at the 5-yard line. And I don't know if it was like a personnel thing or was it just a play, or then that was when they was kicking the two field goals.
You know, I believe it was first and goal from the 4, something like that, after a face mask on a quarterback run. Then we went backward. I can't remember the sequence exactly. We ran the field goal unit out there, and we didn't get it snapped in time. There was some question of whether the clock got pumped, but we still had time to get it. We know where the clock is for the holder. Obviously, we didn't get it, so they moved it back and missed it. I assume that's the sequence you're referring to. Yeah.
And then you were dealt a heck of a hand tonight with, Fernando Mendoza not being able to play, and then second string quarterback. Can you talk a little bit about how that impacted?
I mean, injuries are a part of the game. It's just the way it goes. So, nobody feels sorry for us. I was really just obviously, we didn't give ourselves a chance to win. We didn't do enough early in the first quarter, either side. We didn't do much on offense, and defensively we're missing. Unblocked defenders were missing tackles. And when you're unblocked and you have that type of speed that you're competing against, if the unblocked defenders aren't making tackles, they're going to have explosive plays, which is what happened. And then they scored. Defense settled down, played much better after that until late in the game. Gave up a couple late touchdowns, but and then offensively, what happened. So I thought there were some guys that that was a difficult loss. I mean, we just didn't give ourselves a chance to win. And but I was sitting there watching Craig Woodson and Noah Williams and Teddy Buchanan and guys like that just competing like crazy in difficult circumstance. And I'm really proud of those guys that showed up to compete and competed throughout the game. Weren't perfect all the time, but man, it just speaks a lot about them and their character. So I think, especially towards the end of the game, that's what really stuck out to me, is the guys that showed up and competed in some really difficult circumstances.
Slow first halves have been a common denominator in a lot of the late season losses. Is there anything that you can pinpoint that's leading to that?
Well, on defense, like I mentioned, we had missed tackles with the unblocked defenders. And offensively, we have to, move the ball and score points. So. And
are you able to talk a little bit about why Fernando and Javian were out?
Yeah, just upper body injury for the Jet, and then Fernando wasn't available due to illness.
Any other questions in the room? All right, we'll go to Zoom. Look for Jeff Ferrato. Calvera's on that side.
Hey, Justin, when did you know that you couldn't play Fernando today? Was that last night or was it this morning? And how much advance notice did your other quarterbacks have on the change that was going to have to be made?
This morning, and all those quarterbacks in there do a great job preparing, so they didn't flinch. Neither of them who played. Unfortunately, Chandler had an injury later in the game, but he didn't flinch at all. He's played a lot of football and was excited to play, and then CJ came in and did some good things as well. On offense today, we just weren't at any position good enough to put points on the board, and we got to be better there. But I'm proud of the way that both Chandler and CJ stepped up to the challenge, and I know they had things that they would have liked to done better, but it was an offensive issue today. It wasn't just a quarterback issue.
Is Chandler's injury not serious? And I'm wondering, I presume that Fernando will be fine by the time we play a bowl game.
Yeah, I don't know the severity, and in terms of moving forward, I would assume so. I would sure think so. I don't make the decisions on who's available to play or not. They tell us if they're available. That's between the players and the medical staff, and that's who we go with. So. We'll see.
Thank you.
Yep.
Emmanuel Macedo, Daily Cal.
Good afternoon, Coach. I wanted to ask, did Fernando's late scratch have anything to do with today's offensive game plan against SMU?
Well, I mean, yeah. I guess if you know ahead of time, are there things you would do differently? Yeah, probably so. Some smaller things, but I don't. There was other issues there throughout the game. So, again, it is what it is, and I commend Chandler and CJ for stepping up when their name was called.
Thank you.
Thomas Dunn, right for California.
Good afternoon, Justin. You mentioned the slow starts. When it comes to bowl preparation, what more do you need to see from your offensive and defensive process to avoid a slow start in the bowl game?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's tackling. It's the fundamentals of the game. It's blocking. When you play a very talented team like that, the margins for error go down. When you're playing a less talented team, you might get away with things, a technique or a missed tackle because the next guy can run them down. When you play very talented teams like that, your margins are slim and it shows up. And so, I've said this a number of times now, but if the unblocked defenders got to make tackles in the defense, if you don't, then no call works. And then offensively, it is a number of things, whether it's blocking or running, throwing, catching. I mean, there's just a lot of things that we could improve upon. We got to be able to put the ball in the end zone when we're down in the red zone. Can't go backwards and give up some sacks today. So, there's just a number of things.
And understandably, it's hard to pinpoint a lot of the issues with the offensive line with all the musical chairs that are going on. But how do you try and set up offense for success, knowing that the offensive line has been so unstable throughout the season and in part just struggling on all accounts?
Yeah, I mean, we do whatever we can do to help them. And again, when you're there's times when you can help people, you can double, you can full slide, you can max protect, you can add the QB to the run game. There's things to mitigate, and then there's also you have to go out and play, and you can't necessarily protect every position on the field with every single call. So we've got to we've got to continue working with them. We got to coach them and help those guys take another step throughout bowl prep. And it's this time of year, especially in this era of college football, it's there's a lot going on. A lot going on with recruiting, obviously bowl preparations, transfer portal, and these players. Boy, I empathize with them because they're getting it from all angles, and it takes a very steady guy to be able to remain focused and keep the main thing, and focus on football and work on the things he's got to do to get better in this environment. So that's our job, is to help keep it really simple for them, help those guys improve. And obviously we'll watch video and they'll get in the weight room and, some of these bumps and bruises will go away. But, this is again, this era of college football, this next month there's a lot happening. So we've got to help those guys stay focused.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. We'll start with Steve Kroner from the SF Chronicle.
Yeah, Justin, I know that this game's only probably a half hour old, so this question might not be appropriate, but hopefully you'll deal with it. If you were going to pick 1 or 2 things about which you're the most proud of this season with 12 regular season games, and maybe 1 or 2 things about which you're most disappointed in this 12-game regular season, what would those things be?
Certainly proud of a bunch of individuals who showed up to compete each and every day. The consistency in competitive character with a number of guys on the team was evident. I mean, I named a bunch of them. It's the Craig Woodsons and Miles and Noel and Teddy Buchanan's and, the Ricky Correas and, Jack. And, I could go through a list. There's a bunch of guys who do that. But when you're around guys like that are in it every day and bring it every single day, and they don't really, they're so steady in how they approach football. Man, it's really gratifying to watch those guys play and have success because they have earned it. And it's hard to do that. It's simple in concept, but it's really hard to do over time. I'm proud of those individuals. I'm proud of the way the team fought through some extremely difficult, emotional, close losses. I think, and that's going to lead into the second part of your question. But I am proud of the way the guys battled back from, a number of, 5 one-score losses, and continued to believe and fight, and found a way to win games. And I think the most disappointing thing is that I think we expected to play better in certain areas. I thought we, would have won some of those tight games, and we didn't. And so that's frustrating for sure. And I have to look at everything in the program and identify areas where we can grow the margins. And so you're not looking for necessarily every play to be perfect. You're going to try to get that, but grow the margins so those games don't come down to 1 or 2 plays that you make those plays, but B, you give yourself a little more room. And because nobody's perfect. There's not a perfect game being played out there today or earlier this year across the country. So that's on me to help remedy that. And we have to start as coaches and how we scheme and how we recruit and personnel and all those things. And then the players, we got to demand competitive behavior. We got to demand improvement. And so that way the product collectively gets better and better. So I think that's probably the best I could answer it now. I'd probably have a better answer for you in a week.
Thank you.
Last question for Jeff.
Justin, you made reference to sort of the way things are in college football right now, especially this time of year where there's so much going on. And I'm wondering, a lot of guys we've seen the last several years get to a bowl game, and if it's not something that's high on their agenda, they sort of bail on their team and they decide they're moving on to whatever else is next for them. I'm wondering if you expect that to happen with any of your players, and if any of them have notified you about that.
They have not notified me of that. I think every individual's situation is a little bit different. I think there's guys that kind of run the gamut, and I know we'll have conversations with specific individuals, certainly regarding the bowl game and their future. And then there's going to be other situations that come up again because of the environment of college football, and they're just getting it from every angle, and families and agents and all these things. They hear it from everywhere, and there's a lot of freedom to move, and there's a lot of money involved in this era of college football, and it's not super structured yet, and so I do have empathy because, man, they're young guys. They're trying to find their way, and sometimes there's a lot of noise for them. And so we want to make sure that we can keep this as level as possible for them, very straightforward, and have real open and honest conversations with all the guys on our team.
Thank you.
Thanks.